Assassin's Creed Valhalla has been out for a couple of days now, and I'm sure plenty of you have put a decent amount of time into the game already. But I wanted to focus on one specific topic, probably the most standout thing so far for me with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and that's how it tackles its narrative. Now, for me, in most open world games, I struggle to connect with the main storyline because of how non-linear my experience can be, right? That's how these open world RPGs and action RPGs work now. You know, I could just go from point A to point B following the main story beats, but I don't because I get distracted, you know? I'm trying to get materials to craft items, I'm doing a bunch of side content activities, you know, to mark off certain areas on the map. It feels like a sensory overload sometimes because there's so much stuff that you can do outside of the main storyline, and that's kind of sold as part of the experience. So typically when I play these games, I spend several hours in the story and then I'm feeling like, I want to go do something else. I want to experience the other parts of this, game. And I go and spend a couple hours on that, and then I come back to the story. But then I feel like when I do that, the narrative is somehow disrupted because everything or most of what I was doing was kind of detached, you know, separate and on its own, not part of the whole experience. As I've been playing more of Valhalla, I've realized that I just don't get that feeling from this game, and I've been wondering why. You know, what does this game do differently? Why am I able to spend a couple hours away from the main mission and then come back and feel like I didn't disrupt my experience? Before we move on, this is a no spoilers video. I'm not here to ruin the game for you guys. It just came out a couple of days ago, so nothing in this video will ruin the experience. This isn't like a post-completion discussion or anything like that. So I spent some time thinking about why Valhalla manages to pull off what a lot of open world games don't, and came to the conclusion that everything in this game, everything ties back to two central features of Valhalla. It's the settlement and it's the narrative arcs. It's just a level of cohesion between every single part of this game that I feel like you don't get in most games. Now, there are some exceptions. I'm sure you guys are already listing them out in the comments. You can probably guess what they are. The Witcher 3 and Red Dead Redemption 2. Two of the probably considered the best open world games of this last generation and possibly of all time. Those are exceptions in which those games do a lot of what Valhalla manages to do as well, and they do them just as good, if not better. But from what I can tell, Valhalla took inspiration, took notes when they decided on the narrative design and direction for this game. And that's a good thing for me. I would prefer that games learn from some of the best games out there. Let's talk about those quest arcs. This is probably the most unique thing in Valhalla that sets it apart for me. Every single region in the game has a quest arc, and it's ultimately about finding peace, although sometimes that involves violence because, you know, that's the best way to get that done. But these are told in chapters, and they bring you to every single corner of each region that you're in. Within these individual regions, you have opportunities. You guys know these are the gold, blue, and white blips on the map. Normally, these would be side quests or exploration activities. And littered throughout these regions are notes, and you see kind of evidence of whatever's going on within that region from a story perspective. You see evidence of that everywhere. World events, for example, involve people affected by what's going on in the central arc, what's happening in the world. You know, there's a central theme to every single area. And then you also see that followed through with the art direction. You know, a lot of these areas feel distinct, they feel unique, and it makes them feel special and distinguishable between all of the other ones. It just feels like the writing team had the central arc in mind when they were, you know, concepting all of the side content. And the result is that no matter which region I'm in, it feels like I'm making progress towards that arc. And that's where the cohesion happens. It feels like I'm impacting this world. I'm working towards one singular goal, no matter what I'm doing within a single region. And then even on a larger macro level, like with the settlement and Eivor's clan, whatever you're doing is pushing towards that one goal. A recent game, a great game that does this very well, is Ghost of Tsushima. No matter what you're doing with Jin Sakai, he is helping the people fight back against the Mongols. He can decide to do it as the ghost or as the samurai the way he was raised, but no matter what, he's working towards that one goal. In Red Dead 2, Arthur Morgan, he's dealing with the turn of the century. You know, his lifestyle with Dutch's gang is going out of style. They can't survive that way anymore. And so everything that you do in that game is kind of coming to grips, reconciling how does he deal with this change. In Valhalla, Eivor seeks to secure a future for the Raven clan. Whatever you do is working towards that goal. Every raid, every world event, every activity pushes you closer towards that. Now, all of these games have exceptions with side activities, some silly world events here or there, but by and large, it's all connected. It all circles back to a single theme or a purpose. Now, this is something that I think all games try to do. This isn't some revolutionary thing that Valhalla stumbled upon, but some do it better than others, and I consider Valhalla to be among the bunch that does it very well. Now, I wanted to focus more closely on world events because I think this is really where this mechanic, this cohesion shines, and it's those mysteries that you stumble upon. These are, in essence, they're side quests, but this game doesn't call them side quests because they really aren't. And Darby explained this to me in my interview with him pre-launch about how they've scrapped the idea of side quests and you're not even recording them in the quest log anymore, and they're just things that you stumble upon, but I didn't quite understand the impact that these have. It makes a world of a difference to have these activities even labeled as events rather than missions or tasks. I know this sounds stupid, but bear with me. It makes a world of a difference that they are not detailed and tracked in the quest log, but instead they're just marked on the map as, hey, there's something I found here. This is interesting, we should go check it out. There's some sort of psychology at work here that I don't completely understand, I'll be honest, but I just don't feel pressured to do side quests and side content in this game. It feels like these world events are just something that's happening in the world. It's not something I have to do. If I have the time or I'm curious, I will do them. And the fact that I have that option, at least in my head, is very important. What really helps here is that these have no arbitrary level requirements either. So there's no pressure to do like a level 16 quest before you continue with the level 18 main mission in order to get to that level. You guys totally know what I'm talking about with these open world games. There's almost like a pre-designed order in which you are supposed to do these quests if you want to do everything. That doesn't exist in Valhalla, and it's kind of liberating. It's freeing to know that I'm not, supposed to do things in a particular order. And what's also very interesting about these world events is that most of them don't even have enemies. Most of these are you talking to someone, learning about their culture or, whatever they're doing in the world that needs your help, little narrative bits where you get to make choices and like slightly impact it. A lot of these add flavor to the world. They're not really something that's supposed to be like a bedrock of content. They're grounded in the setting. They teach you more about how people lived at that time, how people thought. So really all of these narrative decisions, the direction that they went in, all of this comes together in my mind to make open world activities feel more natural overall. I've talked about this with exploration in Valhalla, and some of you disagree with me. You want to be told where to go, and that's fine, right? But just at the foundational level in Valhalla, that's not what's going on. You're not being told immediately where to go, at least not by who you're talking to, the quest givers. The UI is there to do that job if you want it to, but everything else is very much figure it out for yourself. And that is something that I appreciate, and I think that's reflected in the world events as well. This natural feeling extends to most of the opportunities outside of world events even, your wealth, your mysteries, and your artifacts. For example, with Eivor, I go on raids when I want to experience combat, or I want a new weapon or a crafting upgrade. Maybe I want to get the resources in order to build a specific building in my settlement. There is a clear activity to reward loop. There's a through line that you can draw that's satisfying to me, but it also connects back to the purpose, the central theme of this game. Another thing that so many of these activities do, which I appreciate and some people may not, is that they respect your time. Some of these world events, guys, last less than a minute, and that's not a bad thing in my book. It feels like more quality over quantity. They weren't trying to fill the game with filler or with fetch quests or with checklist quests, like collect X amount of items and bring them back to me. There is some of that, but it's contextualized, and that's really important when you talk about a game that you're supposed to play for over 100 hours. And then the next part of this, which I mentioned at the top, is the settlements. And I've talked about this since I've played Valhalla several times before launch. In the previews, it was hard for me to connect with the story, and that was because there was no settlement. There was no context for you know, like the weight of the actions I was taking. And now that I've played the game, you guys have played the game, you realize this too. The settlement is the glue that really just holds this game together. I cannot imagine Valhalla without the settlement. I can't. Everything you do is for the settlement. It's central, it's core to this experience. Yes, you're a Viking. Yes, you pillage and raid, but you're a settler. And that's something that we've known from the beginning. You know, every raw material, every supply cache that you find, that's going to use. It's for that purpose. And you see the follow through in the settlement. You go back and you build these buildings and you learn more from these craftsmen. Like, it really reminds me of the homestead from AC3, which, if you guys are fans of this series, that is kind of the shining part of AC3, or at least it is to me. I think that game is underrated. But again, Valhalla is not the only game to do this well, kind of have a home base where you report back to. Red Dead 2 is a great example. You have the camp, which moves several times, but you bring back money, you invest it into the camp, you give the camp the split, and, you know, put certain upgrades in the camp for Arthur and the gang. Dragon Age Inquisition has Skyhold. You know, you renovate that, you upgrade it over time, it gives you impact on the gameplay. Mass Effect is an open world, but this came to mind of me as well because the Normandy, man, the Normandy is your base in Mass Effect. Like in the original trilogy, at least, that's your ship you always return to. You bring your resources back, you spend them, you upgrade them, you talk to your companions who are very important to your overall experience. I think that having a home base does wonders for any open world game, personally. When you have a hub to return to, it kind of just centralizes everything. It ties a lot of loose ends together, and it makes experiencing an open world sort of non-linear game a lot more cohesive. It makes it more enjoyable in terms of the story, at least from my perspective. So there it is. Valhalla manages to tell a cohesive main story in an open world game where many fail, and I think it deserves praise for that, and I hope I explained it as best I could in this video. Guys, I have a lot more stuff planned for Valhalla. I've taken a little bit of a break over the past couple days. I've done some streaming. I've played a lot of PlayStation 5, I'll be honest. But yeah, I'm gonna get into some builds, some more opinion pieces like this, you know, talking more about how this game compares to Odyssey and Origins, and also how it, you know, approaches stealth, which I have some interesting, I think, takes for you guys on that. So if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, click the bell to turn on live notifications so you don't miss my next video. Also, be sure to follow me on social media. On Twitter, I'm at jayvee on YT, and Instagram, I'm at jayvee.yt. Also, you should join our Discord server, discord.gg/jayvee on YT. We have a very active Assassin's Creed community, but also communities for Watch Dogs Legion and for Cyberpunk. That's coming up too. That's a big game, you know, PlayStation, Xbox, whatever you're looking for. We have a great community there. Links for everything are in the description below. Big thanks to my YouTube members, my Ultra fans, Grass, Dave, Deadwalker, Bill, Cam, Cullen, and Jacob. Super fans, Kamal, Casey, Tipsy Sergey, and Dan. Fans, Matthew, Spyro, JVO, John, Lilman, Brock, Tia, Level 42, Ryan, Allura, Ryan, Moonman, and Tarl K. And supporters, Nos, Flame, Nightmare, Sung, Abhishek, V-Toxic, Taryn, Glenn, Elo Games, Undersittable, Adam, and Blaze for supporting the channel. If you want to support me further, click the join button below this video. In exchange for your support, you'll unlock custom badges and emotes to use in chat. Check the link in the description for more information. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.